Hello everyone, good evening and welcome back to LiveLaw Academy. Let me share my screen today first to ask you whether you have heard of this or not in the last few days. So this has been there in all the news channels. If you are a law student, it becomes even more important for you as you are expected to know about the legal updates, and this specifically is related to a particular law for which a new bill has been passed now. Okay, and the bill has only been passed and discussed in Lok Sabha for now. So we will try to understand from legal perspective as to what are the nuances of this, how this is related to different provisions of law, whether any right from the constitution is to be discussed here, and then you only and only have to understand it with regards to the different aspects of the Waqf Act that is already there from 1995. Okay, so we understand and we will try to see that there are changes that we proposed in this law in 2013 also, and then after that in 2024 this bill was proposed, and now Lok Sabha, after a very lengthy discussion, has come to a conclusion after the recommendation given by the Joint Parliamentary Committee. Okay, so we will try to discuss all of these facts and try to understand that what all you are expected to know as a law student. If you're preparing for judiciary, you understand that whenever certain new laws are introduced or there are amendments introduced to the existing laws, this becomes a hot topic of your examination, both for your pre as well as mains examination. So I will highlight these sections, I will highlight the tenure, I will highlight the authorities, number of people, all of these points which are relevant for your pre-examination. At the same point, after our discussion, you will also be able to write a short note, as well as a good amount of content will be there for you to write a lengthy note also from this particular topic. Okay, so let's start and let's try to understand what is Waqf. So let me just tell you that there are certain terms that we are expected to know when we are reading a new topic. Okay, now because this is a new bill, you are expected to know certain terms, and those terms can be understood from the act itself. So we have the copy of the act here. I have highlighted certain sections from the definition provision, that is section 3 here, and let's try to refer to these first for us to understand how the working of the board or the council or the aspect of Waqf is going to get affected by the amendment that are introduced. Okay, so there are certain highlighted points that I will be talking about. We will be discussing about the board here. So there are two terms. We have a council and we have state Waqf board. The council is a central body. The members in the council so far were to be there from the Muslim community only. And now by the amendment, we have introduced that there will be two non-Muslims also, which will be part of the council. And that is why this becomes important, that we must know section 9 establishes the council and who all are there in the council. Okay, so these are things that I'm highlighting for you to know, for you to go through it, glance through it at least once before your exam perspective. Okay, then we have our board also, which is constituted, and for you to know what is a Waqf. So we already have a definition of Waqf as well under 3 clause R. Okay, so important. Now let's understand what is Waqf. So I have mentioned a definition over here as well. If we get into the non-legal definition, Waqf is basically when a property is dedicated, and this is not something new. This is being followed from the time of Delhi Sultanate itself. So we see the traces of Waqf, that is when for charitable purpose, for religious purposes, under Islamic law, if a person has to devote or transfer or dedicate their property, they can definitely do so. The property can be both movable and immovable property. Okay, and now once you are devoting this property, okay, the term I am referring is devoting. So therefore, you are not giving it as a gift. You are not transferring it as any other mode of transfer like sale, mortgage, lease, etc. Rather, this is a devotion to the God. And that is why we consider it to be irrevocable as well. So you have here now transferred the property to Allah, and therefore it becomes an irrevocable transfer, and therefore you can't be as per the law, you cannot be taking it back, you cannot be doing any other mode of transaction with such property. And it has to be regulated, it has to be the administration of the property has to be done by the authorities as mentioned in the law. So we will talk about the administration, which is to be done by Mutawali, and we will talk about the state boards, which will do the all the aspects with regards to how the property has to be dealt with. Okay, so these are two bodies that I have highlighted for you. One is at the central level, that is the council. Then at the state level, we have the state board. And we also understand that the caretaker of the property will be considered as the Mutawali. Okay. Now, these are basic aspects of you to know why and how Waqf was introduced. So, as I said, that this is not a new concept. This has been there from the time period of Delhi Sultanate, when Muhammad Ghori had gifted two of the villages to the Multan's Jama Masjid. Okay, and from that, because it is a good deed, it has continued. And therefore, because this is part of the personal law, we also codified the law. And therefore, this Act of 1995 gives us different provisions, gives us different aspects as to how the regulation of this property is to be done. All right, so we have history and we understand that what is Waqf. Now let's read the definition from the provision as well, the legal definition. So a permanent dedication, okay, as I told you, devotion or dedication is something that you are doing by any person of any movable or immovable property for any purposes recognized under Muslim law, as pious, religious, charitable, and includes these. Okay, so this is how we have defined Waqf under the law. Now we will see whether, we have tried to rename the law, we have tried to rename the definition of Waqf or not when I come to the amendment bill. All right. Then we have a tribunal also. If you see any law, you must identify if there are disputes arising from the aspects of this law, where will the dispute go? So as a law student, you should be thinking about these points. For example, let's say I'm teaching you NGT. So NGT Act does provide that the tribunal is there, and where will the appeal go from NGT, right? When you talk about Consumer Protection Act, we understand that, okay, from the National Consumer Commission, now the appeal will go to the Supreme Court. So likewise, in most of these bodies that we have referred to in different laws, we understand that there is a provision of appeal. Now, that provision of appeal is missing from the Act of 1995. And that is also something that has been highlighted and taken care of by the recent bill. Okay. So tribunal is again constituted in this law specifically for the regulation and for dealing of the provision of this law. But the absence of appeal was there in the original law. Okay. And then we will also be talking about the survey commissioner. Now we are dealing with property. We understand that if somebody has gifted a property or has devoted or has dedicated the property under Waqf, then it has to be time and again the surveys have to be done, right? And accordingly, this law mentioned that there will be a survey commissioner who will be appointed. So under Section 4, and the state government would appoint, right? Now by the bill, we have very specifically mentioned that the survey commissioner will be the collector. And collector is considered to be the representative of the government, right? And therefore, now the fear comes, and the opposition has highlighted this, that, okay, the collector should not be there, and rather, there should be other mechanism, or the survey commissioner should continue to be there. Okay, so these are all aspects which merely from Section 3 you get to understand are relevant for you. So we have so far understood that what is a Waqf, why this law was introduced, why this codification was important. We have laid down a different type of authorities under this law, and how do we actually whether this is whether this is efficient or not, how do we actually see the practicality of working of all these authorities and bodies, is something that we are going to discuss next. Okay, so you start your reading from the provision, definition provision. Then, as I told you, you can definitely refer to different sections which are highlighted there. For example, when we talk about tribunal or when we talk about the council, you should at least for once glance through it for you to understand what are the different changes that we have tried to make. Okay, I'm going to do this exercise for you in a simpler manner. Now, let's say I'll give you an example. Now, here, the council shall consist of all these people, which was there in the original act. And I've highlighted in yellow certain things. So there are members of parliament. Okay, there are people of national eminence who are from different field. Okay, we have people who have been judges, or we have representation from both bar and bench, right? Then we have eminent scholars from Muslim law. And by the 2013 amendment, we also said that we will at least need 2 women to be appointed as the member. Okay, so if you see this was introduced by the 2013 amendment. So all of this was something which is there, or which was there up till now. With the introduction or with the passing of the bill by the Lok Sabha, the 2025 amendment bill, we will see that there are certain changes that we have tried to make in this structure. Okay, I have prepared the content for it. So let me take you through the content and for you to understand what all is required for the understanding of the present bill. So when we are studying about history, we understand that Waqf is something that was introduced with an intention of promoting charity and for religious purposes. Then it continued also. There was one instance wherein we saw that the British courts and the British judges said that, this is considered, Waqf is considered as the perpetuity of worst and most pernicious kind. Okay, and therefore they said that Waqf is invalid and it should not be continued. But we had our own personal laws, and therefore we continued with the same, and we did not really find coherence with the opinion of the British judges. So this is one attempt that has been made in the past by the Britishers, which failed and which we did not continue. Okay. Now we see that we had different legislations. This is just for your reference that we had initially the Waqf Act of 1954, then the present law 1995 law was introduced, amendments in 2013, and now we have the bill of 2025. Whether it will get passed, whether it will become an act or not, we will just see that in some time. Okay. Now, why are the Waqf properties not revocable? So as I already told you, these are transferred to Allah, and we consider that because it is going to the God, we will not be taking it back, right? So once a property is declared as Waqf, it remains so forever. Now, this can also be, once a Waqf, always a Waqf. Okay, this can also be a statement that can be asked in your exam, and you should know the idea of the question. You should know that why is this being asked. So one aspect of that is because the property is because the devotion that has been done, the dedication that has been done is irrevocable in nature. Okay, and I have mentioned certain examples here. Now, these are from the government document itself, but these are just for you to know. If you start searching for cases, you will find that, there are so many PILs that were, one recently filed in the Delhi High Court itself, highlighting the constitutional validity of Waqf, okay, wherein the Delhi High Court has now sought for opinion. So, all these instances, plus there are so many cases which are, which highlights the aspect of Waqf being a very, very relevant aspect with regards to the property in India. So we have, after the armed forces and after the railways, the majority of the property belongs to Waqf. And there are so many places that you must have visited, or you may have seen, or you may have heard of, which actually belongs to Waqf only. And that is why the discussion is very, very relevant as a layman, from a legal perspective, for you to be judges, for you to preparing for the judiciary exam in all context. Okay. So these are examples which are claimed as Waqf property, and these are very famous property. Okay, so the Surat Municipal Corporation building itself, which is considered to be a Waqf property for the historical usage. Okay, now we will come and discuss about that how Waqf by user is defined. So as I already told you, these are the Waqf board is the largest landowners in India, and therefore all of these issues were highlighted, okay, with the Waqf board, with the working of the Waqf board, with the loopholes that exist in the case. All of this was done, and there is a summary that I have kept here. So you can just take a screenshot of this as well for you to understand the issues. For example, we need more diversity in the constitution of the Waqf board or the Waqf council. Now, this is something which the government has proposed with regards to introduction of the amendment. See, आप amendment लेकर आ रहे हैं, so you will have to highlight the issues as well, right? So this is from the government perspective, wherein they say that we need more diversity in the board and council. Then we need to see, that if there is any provision with regards to them violating the rights. So we will refer to section 40, and we will see that absolute power leads to absolute, tyranny also, corruption also. So likewise here also, you will see that section 40 highlights that we need certain changes as proposed by the government. Okay. Now, misuse of the power by the mutawalis, then non-maintenance of the account, not properly registering, the survey not being properly done. The government has highlighted that there have been so many pending surveys, and all of this definitely leads into a lot of litigation, and therefore the addressing was required, and therefore they have proposed these changes. Okay. Now, let's just understand some very prominent issues in a little more brief manner. The first one is the irrevocability, wherein they say that once a Waqf, always a Waqf. Now, the issue was that there are so many government properties also which are highlighted to be as Waqf, right? And which are claimed to be as Waqf. Now, because of that, they have proposed some changes, okay? And that is why this aspect of once a Waqf, always a Waqf may not continue if that gets approved, right? Then we have an example of the Bet Dwarka, that is the small island, which also has been claimed to be a Waqf property only. Then litigation and mismanagement, as I told you, because of not properly doing the survey, not registering, all of this leads into the large-scale litigation. Then no judicial oversight. When you remove the aspect of appeal, now we understand the idea of appeal, right? If you have studied in constitution, if you have studied in your procedural laws, we understand that why appeal is granted by the virtue of statute. Not an inherent right, but you definitely get it by virtue of statute, right? And when we specifically see, Article 136, when we talk about Article 142, we understand that the horizon of appeal and the horizon of judicial remedy has expanded so much in the recent times. And that is where, when you do not allow judicial intervention or judicial oversight, wherein the appeal can be, referred to the judiciary, that becomes one of the concerns here. Okay, so that also was highlighted. And the unsatisfactory survey work, there are examples also which are mentioned by the government itself, and I have referred to that here. Okay, so all these were highlighted concerns by the government, and therefore now the proposed reforms that are introduced by the bill. So up till now, I have spent 18 minutes with you, and what all have we done? Okay, let me just take a moment and help you revise and help you discuss as to what all have we covered so far. So first thing, we understood what is a Waqf. Then we understood that why these amendments were required at the first place. What is the idea of the amendment? And now we will try to see that what all amendments have been done. Okay, so this is how you should be studying. This is how you should be preparing when you are reading any topic. Now let's understand what are the different amendments and what are the different changes. Okay. So the first one starts with the renaming of the law. The renaming of the law also highlights the purpose or the idea of the law. Now let's just see this. It says the Unified Waqf Management Empowerment Efficiency Development Act. So basically what I have highlighted or mentioned it here is that this will take you to the purpose and object. This is this was introduced, okay, the new amendment bill says that we are introducing digitization. We are considering and we are acknowledging the fact that there is requirement of us having a more effective and a more efficient manner of giving remedy, of disposing of the pending litigation, empowering people, okay, empowering people as to how we will understand that as well. So all this management, better management, efficient management has been the purpose and the objective with which the law or the amendment has been introduced. Okay. Now the formation of Waqf has now there are certain changes that they have introduced in the bill. The first one is that they have put a particular limit with regards to who can denote the property in Waqf. Okay, so let's try to understand. The dedication can be done by a person practicing Islam for at least 5 years. Okay, they can only declare a Waqf, and therefore the person must also own the property. Now, as I told you, after the bill was introduced, it was referred to the committee, the Joint Parliamentary Committee, okay, which is an ad hoc body, ad hoc committee, which basically has members from both the houses, and they discuss, they call for public opinion, they call for expert opinion, and that is how they give you, they will give their recommendation. Okay, so Harshad Mehta case जो है वो बड़ा famous case है जिसमें again हमें involvement of JPC दिखता है. ठीक है. So JPC has here in this bill also, with regards to this bill also, has made certain recommendations which I have highlighted here. So when this was discussed before JPC mentioned that we understand this, that you have spoken about the 5 years to be there, but at the same time we also have to ensure and we have to see that it will be better if you mention that all of this will be done prospectively. Okay, so why prospectively? Let's say if there are people, so there is a concept of Waqf by user. Okay, Waqf by user is that if a property was for a very long period of time being used as Waqf. Now, there are different aspects. Okay, if there is a property, I have not specifically prepared a Waqf deed, but it has been used for charitable purpose, for some religious purpose. क्या है ये charitable? वो it can be used as an orphanage home. It can be used as a place where people go to worship, people go to rest after worship. Okay, all of these can be those property. So if in a given situation it has been used for a very long period of time, then it becomes Waqf by user. Okay. So the new bill says that this should not be continued. Okay, they say that it removes the Waqf by user where properties could be deemed as Waqf solely by the prolonged use for religious purposes. Now this becomes a challenge, right? That what will happen? Will this be prospective or retrospective? So the JPC recommended that you have to ensure that this is prospective in nature. After today, you can say that there has to be more clarity with regards to who is actually dedicating the property, and it will not be done merely by continuous usage. Okay, so that there is no clash or there is no conflict that the board comes and tries to say that this is a Waqf property and somebody claims the right over it, right? To balance it, we have now said that it has to be done in a proper manner, and this will not continue. Waqf by user will not continue, and the government has definitely clarified this also, that it will be prospective in nature, and whatever properties that are there prior to the passing of the bill will not get affected by the same. Okay, then with regards to Waqf alal aulad also, we have now the bill says that this will be valid, but at the same time it must not result in denial of the inheritance rights of the donor's heir. So again a perspective wherein we are highlighting and wherein we are saying that the donor's heir's right to the property should not get affected, or they should not be denied of their right. So this is how they have tried to introduce all the changes with regards to how Waqf can be formulated. One is with regards to the time period that somebody who has been practicing the religion, who has been practicing Islam, can devote or can declare a Waqf. Secondly, we have said that Waqf by user will not continue, and this is to be prospective in nature. And the third one is not result in denial. Okay. Now, coming to the aspect of government property as Waqf, these are all different type of amendments that have been proposed. Okay, approximately 40 to 44 amendments have been proposed, and we are discussing all the relevant ones here for you to understand as to how the nature of the law will be changed with regard, and understand if you are writing judiciary, you will be asked a question. You do not have to unnecessarily take sides. You are not a news channel, right? Or you do not have to criticize something unnecessarily unless and unless your opinion is asked, right? So you are expected to inform, you are expected to explain as to what all has been introduced. Okay, so this is what we are doing right now. We are not criticizing or we are not taking sides. We are rather getting informed as a legal law student, as a legal practitioner, as to what has been what all changes have been introduced. Okay, now with regards to the government property which is identified as Waqf, we have now said that it will cease to be so. Okay, so it will cease to be a Waqf, and accordingly the collector, now you remember I spoke about the survey officer. So here the survey officer has been substituted, and we say that the collector will be the survey officer, and therefore the collector will determine the ownership. In case of uncertainty, he will do the survey, he will find out from the records, and accordingly he will update the revenue records also. So this also has been done so that, again, to balance out all the conflicts of claiming ownership over different set of property. So if it is a government property, now it will, as a Waqf, it will cease to be so. Then power to determine if property is Waqf or not. This is where we go to section 40. Okay, let me take you to section 40. And let's understand why this has been highlighted here. So section 40 basically says decision if property is a Waqf property, and the decision lies with the board. So the state board will collect information. The state board will decide the question as to whether the property is a Waqf property or not, as per the Act of 1995. Okay, this is first thing that was there. Secondly, let's say the state board has decided it. Now, allow for it to be challenged, right? That also was not allowed by the law, and this decision was considered, the decision of the board was considered to be final. So that is why now the bill says that the power to determine whether property is a Waqf property or not is not solely the decision of the Waqf board, and that is how this provision has been removed. Okay, the survey of the Waqf has to be done by the collector. Now the JPC has addressed this. JPC has said that the collector can be substituted, the term can be substituted by designated officer, and accordingly the government has taken the proposal also. Okay, so because of the aspect of, or the challenge given by the opposition was that if it will be a collector, there is a possibility of biasness. JPC mentions that we already understand that, the collector is an official authority, and he is a representative, and accordingly it is better that we substitute the term by a designated officer. Okay, then we have Central Waqf Council, and wherein, as I told you, very specifically now we say that in addition to the number of people that were there, we have to ensure there are some ex officio members also, right? So we now very specifically say that 2 members have to be non-Muslim members. Now, this was also highlighted, and this was also considered as a challenge by the opposition. But the JPC answers and says that it is going to promote inclusivity and diversity in the Waqf property management. And definitely we have to ensure that the presence of non-Muslim ex officio members will help in fulfilling the requirement of the proposed amendment. The proposed amendment is with an idea of bringing efficiency and helping in the management, in the well management of the existing Waqf, right, as to how the Waqf board working. Therefore, this inclusivity is not a wrong thing, and therefore it can be accepted by in the bill. All right. Accordingly, we have this here. So you can compare these two things. You can compare that what was the structure in the Waqf Act and what is the structure in the Waqf Bill. Okay. So these are all elected and nominated members. Now we have kept nominated members. We will have representation from, we will have ex officio chairperson, we will have 1 MP, MLA, 2 professionals. But at the same time, we also see that we will have non-Muslim members as well. Okay, so this is something which is to promote inclusivity and to promote opinion. But again, JPC has very specifically mentioned that the people should be these people should be those who are aware or who have worked in the field of Muslim law, personal laws, and accordingly will be contributing in the working and in the purpose of the law. Okay. Then with regards to the tribunal, so tribunal was proposed to be comprising of two members again. The act also suggested the same. The act had these two members in the tribunal. The bill says and that these two members will be there with in the working of the tribunal. Okay. So the JPC has said that first thing, let's have three people in the tribunal. Okay, first is that. Secondly, they have also highlighted that it is important that you have these members who have knowledge of Muslim laws when you are appointing them. So there can be a current or former district court judge as its chairman, or a current or former officer of the joint secretary of the state government, and we can also have somebody who has the knowledge of Muslim law. So this is another recommendation done or introduced in the tribunal. So we see that there are changes introduced, positive changes introduced as told by the government that this is to promote inclusivity. So these changes are included in both the council, the board, as well as the tribunal, which will deal with all these cases. Okay. Now, this is how the amendment can be summarized on, can be understood. Then, as I already told you, that we have an appeal from the order of tribunal, which we have accepted now, seeing that there are so many pending cases. Okay, there are a lot of factual data also which you can find on the government website with regards to how many Waqf are there, how much of property in each state is there, which belongs to the Waqf board. Then we can also understand that there are so many pending cases, and therefore to bring efficiency and for efficient disposal, the court has said that yes, we will allow appeal from the tribunals to the High Court. So accordingly, the JPC also approved the same, and this is something that was introduced in the bill, right? So this is how JPC also, with regards to 5 years, JPC said that it is better that we use the term any person showing or demonstrating that he or she has been practicing Islam for at least 5 years. So language also does matter, and accordingly it should be very calculatively used in the law. And this will be all the summary. So if you have heard me in last 32 minutes, this is the summary for you with regards to what all has been introduced in the amendment, how the process of registration, declaration of title, survey, mutation. Okay, all of these are aspects which the government has kept in mind when they have introduced these changes, and accordingly the bill was recently passed, very recently, by that I mean last night only, right, in the Lok Sabha by 288 votes. So as a law student, again now, it is important for you to know what all laws exist. Let's say if you are studying Property Act, Transfer of Property Act. So you know the aspects of property, you know how relevant regulation of property, non-accumulation of property becomes. And then we also at the other end understand that how state can acquire our property. So at the same time, the state is restricted when a concept like Waqf comes, right? And therefore, the law has to be very specific. The law has to, let's say, even if we do not make these changes, the law has to be such that it does not lead into pendency of cases or dispute with regards to claim or title, or claim or the title over the property, right? So let's see how this goes. But for now, these were the updates which I had to share with you for this particular bill. Now we'll be waiting and we'll be seeing what all happens in the Rajya Sabha, and accordingly how many changes are adopted and how the amendment is introduced. And I will again be coming here and discussing more recent cases, more recent nuances of laws, different laws. We cover all set of laws which are relevant for our students for their judiciary preparation. We understand there are states like Delhi Judiciary, Haryana Judiciary, wherein, you know, these questions related to recent topics are asked. We also understand that there are states which specifically refer to personal laws, and concept of personal laws also includes the concept of Waqf. So therefore, we have tried to help you understand this concept. I hope this was beneficial for you. If you have any doubts, you can please write it in the comment section. I'll be more than happy to help you with it. Yes. Does anyone have any doubt? You can please ask. Yes, the changes were made in 2013. Yes, you're right. All right, all right. So I will meet you again with another a relevant judgment, recent judgment that I keep saying. But let me just highlight this for you again. It is important for you if you are preparing for Rajasthan Judiciary, if you are preparing for the state judiciary. We have covered at great length topics from different subjects. We have covered property law, we have covered contract law, we have covered criminal law, both procedural and substantive. So you can definitely watch out this space and go to our live section and watch those videos from there. Thank you so much.